first dub is a catalyst to the start of your season. Helps you find a rhythm very early.
Here are the starters for Milwaukee. The post pair, the longtime duo of Antetokounmpo and Lopez. Rollins is out there with Taurean Prince, and it's Kuzma in at the small forward.
And this is where you feed Giannis. The close
NBA opening night, so much excitement, so much anticipation, and we know the rest of the season will deliver.
So let's take a look at the starters for the Philadelphia 76ers. They've got Joel Embiid, George out there with Kelly Oubre. Then there's Tyrese Maxey, and it's Grimes in at the 2. Shot clock at 3. It's stolen by...
Build our habits the right way, everything. From the way we practice, to the way we prepare for games, to the way we warm up, all of it. And then second of all, we're trying to figure out our rotations. Who's going to start, who's going to come off the bench, which groups work well together. It's an ongoing process.
A lot of moving parts, you're right.
This house is rocking. These fans are so pumped up and optimistic about their team right now.
And the starting group for Chicago. Gideon White pair to make the backcourt. Bruce Ellis out there with Kevin Huerter. And it's Vucevic in at center. Now here's Allen. He just couldn't put it together in that loss to Indiana. Here's White. The shot's good.
Be tinkering with your lineups any later than this.
And now the Los Angeles starters. Powell and Kawhi in at the forward spots. James Harden out there with Chris Dunn. And it's Zubac in at the center position. Powell finds Zubac. Back to Powell. 6 on the shot clock. 11 feet out. Boston pulls it in.
Selfish basketball.
Looking at the starting 5 for Boston. Holiday at the 1 with White at the 2. Tatum is the 4 with Porzingis at center. And it's Hauser in at the small forward. Now here's Harden. 5 to shoot. Jacks up at 3. Hauser grabs the board.
Everybody is eager to get going, whether you're playing or the guy on the sidelines drawing up plays.
And now the Atlanta Hawks starters. We've got Trae Young. He's out there with Dyson Daniels. Rizache out there with Onyeka Okongwu. And it's Gay in at the power forward position. Here's Rizache. 5 on the clock. Here's Daniels.
Excitement of the unknown. Everybody comes in with the highest of expectations, right? You got new teammates, some new wrinkles, still a lot to figure out and shake out over the course of a long season.
And the starting group for the Grizzlies. Morant is the point with Bane out on the wing. Jackson is out there with Pippen. And it's Edey in at the pivot.
Excitement because you've put the off-season to use trying to improve your skill as a player, but you love the game of basketball. It's hard not to get amped up. You know, it's just the mature players who are able to channel that in the right direction.
So let's take a look at the Charlotte starting lineup. The guard spots filled in by Ball and Miller. Miles Bridges is out there with Williams, and it's Okogie.
So much excitement, so much hope, so much possibility. I'm sure both of these teams are going to come out with a lot of jitters and nervous energy, but we're going to settle in. We're going to see the highest level of play right in front of us. It's time for the NBA to get it started.
And the starting lineup for Miami. They've got Bam Adebayo. Tyler Hero is out there with Alec Burks. Then it's Andrew Wiggins. And it's
Some games that count. We've been waiting months for tonight, and I love how at this point everybody has playoff aspirations.
A lot of optimism, isn't there, Coach?
There sure is. This is the best day of the year.
Now Sacramento starting 5. The post pair for him will be Murray and Sabonis. Ellis is out there with Levine, and it's DeRozan.
Situations are really all about execution, right? Are players poised in late clock situations? First of all, do they recognize where the shot clock is? Can they adeptly and quickly read defenses? So those are some of the things I'm watching for.
And checking out Utah's opening lineup, the guard pair. It's George and Sexton.
Development, team chemistry building, plus you wait all off season to see how your team measures up. And now you get to find out.
And now the Los Angeles starters. Rui Hachimura is out there with LeBron James. Then there's Jackson Hayes. Then it's Luka Doncic. And it's Reeves in a 2-guard. And so Anunoby will bring it up for the New York Knicks.
And it's Reeves in at the shooting guard. Now Now we know, Greg, early on in the year, teams still trying to figure out their rotations.
And it takes time before you find the rhythm you're looking for. Coaches will mix and match units to see what works best, with the thought also of the postseason.
D giving him that shot, and that's probably not a good idea, but I guess they knew.
Really start coming into focus.
Looking at the starting five for the Dallas Mavericks. Davis out there with Washington. Then there's Najee Marshall. Then there's Derek Lively. And it's Thompson in at the 1. Now here's Banchero. Pass to Caldwell Pope. Just 5 to shoot. Wagner for 3. Mavericks with a rebound.
For those teams who shuffle things in the offseason, they've got a little more to work out. But continuity can serve you well if you have it.
So a look at our starters for Orlando. Wagner and Banchero, the talented forward pair. Corey Joseph out there with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And it's Carter in at the center position, locking down the middle. Davis. Orlando with the rebound.
It's about sustaining a high level of play consistently.
Now let's take a look at Denver's opening lineup. Sharing the wing spots, it'll be Brown and Porter Jr. Before in the 5, it's Gordon and Jokic. And it's Murray in at the 1. Now, here's Jokic, and that's out of bounds.
Really trying to figure out who fits into what roles, what's the best way for your team to play. That takes a little longer than it does with other teams, and at times you have to modify your schemes, your rotations, and really work to figure out what you need to do.
Now let's check out the starters for.
We are trying to get on the floor and get ourselves to the end of the year. So, yeah, pack your jackets, get your sweats, the full sweatsuits on. We're ready to travel, and we're in the thick of things now.
Now let's take a look at the starters for New Orleans. We've got Trey Murphy, Murray out there with C.J. McCollum. Then there's Williamson, and it's Messi in at the 5, roaming the paint. And so,
Coach, or if you had a lot of roster changes, teams with continuity tend to have the advantage to start the season.
A look at Indiana's starting group. Siakam at power forward with Turner in at center. Halliburton and Nembhard, the 1 and the 2. And it's Nesmith in at the 3. Clock at 4. New Orleans needs to hurry. Late clock. Murray's shot is good.
who has done that and who is still struggling to get that rhythm.
Absolutely, Kevin. On a team-wide basis and on an individual player basis, you can figure out who really understands what's supposed to be happening on the floor. You can see when a team is flowing and everything is working together. But then the hard
to push themselves into playoff positioning, do they still have it? But one of the more exciting things in terms of the storyline is which teams are showing some early chemistry that could threaten some of those teams from last year. That is something that we always gravitate towards. The fresh blood, the new team, the one that's going to be the underdog throughout the course of the year, and how far can they push it?
Now let's check out the starters for.
That's an issue, Kevin, because no matter how many coaches you have, typically they are all in sync, and the head coach has usually put his staff together, and therefore they're moving in the same direction.
And the starting group for the Spurs. Up in the front court, it'll be Vassell and Barnes. Paul out there with De'Aaron Fox. And it's Wembanyama.
A great deal of transition baskets. They want to use their speed, their quickness, and attack the defense before it gets set.
So the Houston starting five. Van Vliet and Green, they're manning the backcourt. Alperon Şengün out there with Dylan Brooks. And it's Thompson in at the 3.
He is a rare one who's more comfortable inside. Fox, look.
Attack on both ends of the floor, and it's always fun to see skilled and capable guards duel it out. It is like watching a great chess match.
Now the opening lineup for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Before in the 5, the lengthy pair of Holmgren and Hartenstein. Gilgeous-Alexander runs things with Dort to his side. And it's Williams at the small forward.
For the Thunder, some serious height in the middle. Holmgren the 4, Hartenstein the 5. Gilgeous-Alexander runs the point with Dort at the 2. And it's Williams in at the 3. Gilgeous-Alexander no good. And these teams just getting out of the starting blocks on the season.
Funny, BA, because teams whose results last year finished off in places they thought they could have pushed themselves a little further tend to come out with.
Well, that's an interesting question, Kevin. First of all, I don't think you ever fully implement your system. You're always adding to it. You're always tinkering with it. And for a new coach, what you're really doing is you're learning your team and adjusting your system as you go along to fit your talent.
Let's take a look at our starters for Portland.
Automatically eliminated. Fans in this league are so passionate about their teams, and that's one of the things that makes the NBA so great.
And a look at Minnesota's opening lineup. Conley and Ant are the 1 and the 2. Rudy Gobert is out there with Julius Randle, and it's McDaniels in at the 3.
Edwards just doesn't allow defenders to bottle him up. Great focus and persistence.
Is that the first 20 games are a good indicator for success. And obviously, if you're younger, can your confidence waver if you get off to a tough start? Veterans can absorb it a little bit better, but to me, those first 20 games, big time important.
A look at the opening lineup for Washington. We've got Sarr, Bilal Coulibaly out there with Jordan Poole. Then it's Chris Middleton, and it's George in at the power.
Bringing your own motivation to every game, and you need to provide your own energy.
Now Golden State's starting 5. In the backcourt, we'll see Curry and Podziemski. Draymond Green is out there with Moses Moody. Here's Coulibaly.